I froze at the door, my heart racing, as my husband snatched my baby from my arms. His cries broke the silence, sharp and full of agony. My mother-in-law sneered at me. "You won't enter until you do what we ask." I felt my legs failing me, but still I begged her, "Please don't do this." My husband gave me a cruel smile and walked into the house with our baby. "When you're ready to give me what I want, you know where to find us." He slammed the door shut, leaving me outside in the cold, helpless. Moments later, the door creaked open again, and what happened next was even more terrifying. "Hello. My name is Eleanor Jackson. I'm 32 years old, and I own one of the most successful interior design companies in the country. Building my company from scratch wasn't easy, but I poured my heart and soul into it, determined to make my dream a reality. I've always believed in hard work and perseverance, and my business is living proof of those values. I thought life had rewarded me for my efforts 3 years ago. That's when I met Nathan, the man I thought was the answer to my prayers. We met at a charity gala hosted by one of my most important clients. Nathan, with his charming smile and impeccable manners, caught my attention instantly. He seemed intelligent, attentive, and completely smitten with me from the moment we exchanged greetings. He made me feel like I was the only person in the room. Our courtship was like something out of a romance novel. He surprised me with flowers, planned elegant dinners, and even accompanied me to client meetings. He said he wanted to understand the world I was so passionate about, and he always assured me that he admired my ambition and independence. I believed him. Nathan seemed to be my perfect match in every way. When he proposed a year later, I felt like I was living a dream. He went all out, organizing an unforgettable dinner on the rooftop of a luxury hotel, overlooking the city skyline. The lights twinkled in the background as he knelt down and held up the ring. Tears welled up in my eyes. I thought I had finally found someone who appreciated me for who I was, someone who would be by my side no matter what. Our wedding was a grand affair, attended by friends, family, and many of my business partners. It was the happiest day of my life, or so I thought. Nathan's promises of a bright future filled me with hope. I didn't know that the man I had just vowed to spend my life with was hiding secrets that would soon shatter my world. As I walked down the aisle surrounded by people cheering and celebrating our love, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of pride and joy. I was convinced I had made the right decision. At that moment, I was sure that nothing could go wrong. But sometimes the biggest storms arrive without warning. The honeymoon phase was wonderful, or so it seemed. Nathan continued to shower me with attention, and for a while, I believed I had truly found my happily ever after. We traveled together, shared dreams, and started making plans for our future. But like a mask slipping from a performer's face, Nathan's true nature began to reveal itself. It started with small, subtle comments, observations about how much time I spent working, or how, according to him, a wife shouldn't worry about running a business. I ignored them, thinking he was just adjusting to our new life together. But those comments became sharper and more cutting, until they felt like tiny daggers, slowly chipping away at my confidence. One night, as we were sitting in the living room, Nathan mentioned my company for the first time. "Eleanor," he began, his tone casual, though his eyes reflected something calculating. "Have you ever thought about letting someone else help you manage the business? You've worked so hard for so long. You deserve a break," he said with a smile. I thought he was concerned about my workload. "Nathan, I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work," I replied with a smile. He nodded, but I noticed his jaw tense. "I think maybe it's time you let me handle things. As your husband, I should be involved in your successes too," he continued. His suggestion took me by surprise. "Nathan, that's sweet, but I built this company from the ground up. It's my passion. Besides, you have no experience in design or business management," I told him frankly. His face darkened for a moment, but he forced a smile. "Of course, darling. I just want to help." I dismissed the conversation, not realizing it was just the beginning of his plan. As the weeks passed, I noticed Nathan was becoming increasingly focused on my company. He started hinting that we should consolidate our finances and merge our assets. Whenever I disagreed, his charm would vanish, revealing a side of him I hadn't seen before. Cold, demanding, and relentless. Then his mother, Vivian, entered the scene. At first, Vivian seemed like a pleasant woman, elegant and polite. But after the wedding, she began visiting frequently, offering unsolicited advice on everything from how I should cook to how I should manage my life. Vivian never missed an opportunity to criticize how I ran my company. Her words dripped with condescension, but I tried to keep the peace for Nathan's sake. One afternoon, as I was preparing for an important client meeting, Vivian cornered me in the kitchen. "Eleanor," she said sharply, "you're a wife now. Your focus should be on building a home, not running around like a career woman." I forced a polite smile. "Vivian, my work is important to me. It's part of who I am," I replied calmly. She gave a tight-lipped smile, crossing her arms. "Well, it's about time you started thinking about who you really are. You're married to Nathan, and he deserves a wife who knows her priorities." I didn't respond, but her words stung. It was clear that Vivian not only disapproved of my career, but was actively trying to undermine it. Nathan's true intentions became undeniable a month later. One night during dinner, he laid it out for me bluntly. "Eleanor, I think it's time we had a serious talk about transferring the company. As your husband, I can take care of things while you focus on starting a family." The audacity of his statement left me speechless. I put down my fork and stared at him. "Nathan, you're asking me to hand over the company I've spent years building? Why would I do that?" He leaned forward, a hard expression on his face. "Because I'm your husband, and this is what's best for us." "For us or for you?" I replied, my voice shaking. Vivian, angry that she had invited herself to dinner, chimed in. "Eleanor, don't be so selfish. Marriage is about trust and commitment. A good wife knows when to support her husband." I stood my ground, refusing to give in. "This is my company, and I'm not giving it up. Not for anyone," I responded with determination. Nathan's charm had vanished, replaced by a simmering rage. "You're making a mistake, Eleanor," he hissed. For the first time, I felt a chill run down my spine. The man I had married wasn't who I thought he was. A few months after that fateful dinner, I discovered I was pregnant. At first, I felt a glimmer of hope. I thought the news would soften Nathan and Vivian, that maybe they would realize what truly mattered: our growing family. But I was wrong. Instead, the pregnancy seemed to intensify their efforts to control me and my company. Nathan's demands became more aggressive, and Vivian's visits more frequent. Every decision I made, whether it was about work, the nursery, or even my health, was scrutinized and criticized. "You shouldn't be stressing yourself so much with all this work," Vivian would say mockingly. "It's bad for the baby." Nathan would echo the same sentiment, but his concern always had a sinister undertone. "If you don't listen to me, Eleanor, think about our son. Do you really want to risk it all just because you're too stubborn to let me help?" He'd say, his tone no longer masking his intent. His idea of help was clear. It wasn't about supporting me, it was about taking control. As my pregnancy progressed, the emotional abuse became relentless. I would wake up to Vivian's voice listing my flaws and go to sleep listening to Nathan's tirades about the company. The stress was overwhelming, but I clung to my principles and refused to give in. One night, about 2 weeks before my due date, the situation came to a head. I was sitting in the living room trying to ease the ache in my back, when Nathan stormed in, followed closely by Vivian. "Eleanor," Nathan said abruptly, "we've discussed this enough. You need to transfer the company to me. Now." I looked at him with disbelief and anger. "Nathan, I'm about to have our baby. Can we not do this right now?" Vivian scoffed. "Excuses, excuses. This is what happens when women think they can handle everything. If you had listened to Nathan from the beginning, none of this would be happening." The pain in my abdomen was worsening, but I held my ground. "The answer is no. It's always been no, and it will continue to be no. This company is mine, and I'm not letting you take it." Nathan's face darkened, his jaw clenching. "Then you'll regret it, Eleanor. Mark my words." As the argument escalated, I felt a sharp, intense pain. I doubled over, clutching my belly. "Nathan, I think the baby is coming," I gasped. Instead of rushing to my aid, Nathan stood motionless. "You brought this on yourself," he said coldly. "Sign the papers and I'll take you to the hospital." Tears streamed down my face as I realized the depth of his cruelty. Vivian, standing beside him, nodded in agreement, showing no trace of compassion. "He's right. Why should he help when you're so ungrateful?" Nathan said coldly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Nathan, please. I pleaded, my voice trembling. Our son, don't do this. He crossed his arms, his expression indifferent. You know what I want, he replied impassively. In that moment of desperation, I remembered my phone in my pocket. With shaking hands, I dialed the number of the only person I could trust. Ryan, my former college classmate and one of the few people who had always supported me. Ryan, it's Eleanor. I need help, please come quickly. I'm in labor, and they won't take me to the hospital. His voice was calm and reassuring. Stay put, Eleanor. I'm on my way. Within minutes, Ryan arrived, bursting into the house with a determined look on his face. He didn't spare a glance at Nathan or Vivian as he helped me to my feet. Everything's going to be okay, he said softly, guiding me towards the door and then to his car. At the hospital, Ryan stayed by my side during every agonizing contraction. His presence was a beacon of hope, a reminder that not everyone in my life had turned against me. Hours later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. When I held my son for the first time, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. No matter what happened, I would do whatever it took to protect him. Nathan and Vivian had already taken so much from me, but I wouldn't let them take my son. After a few days in the hospital, I was finally discharged. Holding my newborn son, Liam, in my arms, it felt like a miracle. Tiny hands gripped my finger, and for a moment, I forgot all the pain and betrayal. Now he was my whole world and I swore to protect him at all costs. Ryan drove us home from the hospital, and I couldn't thank him enough for everything he'd done. You don't have to keep thanking me, Eleanor, he said with a kind smile. I'll always be here for you. His words gave me comfort, but a sense of dread washed over me as we pulled up to the house. Nathan and Vivian were waiting at the door. Their expressions were hard to read, but I knew it wouldn't be a warm welcome. I stepped out of the car, cradling Liam in my arms. Nathan's eyes fixed on me, cold and calculating. Vivian stood beside him, arms crossed, a sneer on her face. We need to talk, Nathan said curtly, blocking the entrance. I hesitated, holding Liam closer. Can we do this later? We just got home with our baby, I replied calmly. No, Nathan said sharply. This can't wait. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a menacing tone. You need to sign the company over to me, Eleanor. Now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Nathan, I just had a baby. Can't you think about something other than my company, at least for once? I exclaimed in disbelief. Vivian let out a sarcastic laugh. Don't play the victim, Eleanor. You had every opportunity to do the right thing and you refused. Now there are consequences. What consequences? I asked, my voice trembling, feeling my heart race. Nathan smirked, and before I could react, he reached for Liam. Until you do what I say, you won't get him back, he said firmly. I didn't cry. I just held Liam tighter, but Nathan was stronger, and with Vivian's help, they ripped my son from my arms. Vivian held Liam while Nathan turned to me. You won't enter this house until you agree to transfer the company, and you won't see your son until you do, he said coldly. I felt my knees buckle and tears started streaming down my face as I pleaded. Please, Nathan, don't do this. He's just a baby. Our baby. But they didn't care. Vivian sneered. You brought this on yourself, Eleanor. When you're ready to cooperate, you know where to find us. They slammed the door in my face, leaving me standing on the porch, broken and helpless. My world had crumbled, and the people I once trusted had become my worst enemies. I stumbled back to Ryan's car, sobbing uncontrollably. He rushed to my side, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. Eleanor, what happened? He asked. They took him, I replied between sobs, barely able to form the words. They choked me. They won't let me see him unless I give them the company. Ryan's expression darkened, his jaw tightening. This isn't over, Eleanor. We're going to fight this. They won't get away with this. His determination gave me a glimmer of hope. As he drove me to my parents' house, I realized I wasn't alone in this battle. I had someone I could rely on, someone who believed in me. Sitting in the back seat, I wiped away my tears and looked out the window. Nathan and Vivian thought they had won, but they had underestimated me. I wasn't going to let them take everything from me. This was just the beginning of my fight to reclaim what was mine. My son, my company, and my life. The morning sun streamed through the windows of my parents' guest room, but it brought no warmth, only the cold despair I felt inside. Liam's absence weighed heavily on my heart. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching my phone, replaying the events of the previous day. Nathan and Vivian had crossed every line, but I wasn't going to let them break me. Ryan entered the room with a cup of coffee and a determined look. "I've been thinking all night," he said, handing me the mug. "Nathan and Vivian want you to feel powerless, but you're not. You have resources, Eleanor, and people who care about you. We're going to get Liam back, and we'll make sure they never hurt you again." His words were a lifeline in my sea of despair. "But how?" I whispered. "They have everything. The house, Liam. They even tried to take the company." Ryan pulled up a chair and sat across from me. "First, we get legal help. Your rights as a mother and as the owner of that company are protected by law. Second, we make sure Liam is safe. They've already shown they're willing to cross lines, so we need to be prepared for anything." Later that day, we met with Amelia Weber, the lawyer Ryan had contacted on my behalf. Amelia was clear, confident, and unwavering as she assessed the situation. "Here's what we're going to do," she began, pulling out a notepad. "First, we file an emergency custody order. Liam is your son, and no court is going to side with a parent who uses a baby as leverage. Second, we protect your company. We'll freeze their assets and make sure Nathan can't touch a penny." Her confidence bolstered my spirits. "And what about Nathan and Vivian?" I asked. Amelia's expression hardened. "Their actions are bordering on criminal abuse. We'll seek legal consequences for both of them." The next few days I worked tirelessly with Ryan and Amelia, gathering evidence. Text messages, emails, and even video recordings of Nathan and Vivian's manipulative behavior. Ryan was by my side every step of the way, offering not only his help but also his unwavering belief in me. "You're stronger than you think," he told me one night as we sorted through documents. "Nathan and Vivian underestimated that. That's their mistake." The evidence spoke for itself, and at the end of the hearing, the judge ruled in my favor, granting me temporary custody of Liam. As I walked out of the courtroom holding my son, tears streamed down my face, but not from despair but from relief. The first battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Back at my parents' house, I held Liam close and vowed never to let him be used as a pawn again. Ryan sat beside me, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "This is just the beginning, Eleanor," he said. "We've won a fight, but now we have to make sure Nathan and Vivian can't come after you or Liam again." I nodded, my resolve hardening. "I'm ready, Ryan. Whatever it takes, I'll protect my son and my company." With Liam safe in my arms, I knew the battle was far from over. Nathan and Vivian weren't the type of people to accept defeat easily. The next day, Amelia called to inform me that Nathan had filed a countersuit, trying to paint me as an unfit mother. "They're desperate," Amelia said over the phone. "But this plays in our favor. The more they push, the more they reveal their true motives. We have to stay ahead of them." The following weeks were exhausting. Nathan and Vivian not only tried to regain custody of Liam, but also renewed their attempts to gain control of my company. I received letters from their lawyer demanding meetings, and at one point Nathan even showed up at my parents' house, banging on the door and shouting threats. Ryan called the police immediately, and they escorted Nathan away. It was clear that his desperation was escalating, but instead of fear, I felt a surge of determination. Amelia helped me file for a restraining order, which was granted, preventing Nathan and Vivian from coming near me or Liam. It was a small victory, but it gave me the breathing room I needed to focus on the next steps. One of the most critical aspects of my fight was protecting my company. With Ryan's support, I worked closely with Amelia to secure the business. We restructured the company's ownership and placed it under a trust. Only I or Liam could access it. Nathan tried every trick in the book, spreading false rumors about my company, contacting my clients, and even attempting to file false claims against me. But I held strong, knowing that his desperation was proof of his weakness. The custody and divorce trials were scheduled for the same week. The courtroom was tense as Nathan and Vivian sat across from me with their lawyer, trying to concoct a story about me as a selfish and absentee mother. But Amelia was relentless. presenting a timeline of events that showed how Nathan and Vivian had emotionally abused me during my pregnancy, denied me medical help, and even taken Liam away from me. The judge's expression grew colder with each piece of evidence. When it was my turn to speak, I stood and faced the courtroom with confidence. I trusted Nathan with my heart, my life, and my future. Instead of being a partner, he tried to take everything from me: my son, my company, and my dignity. I won't let him continue to hurt me or my son. The final blow came when Ryan testified, sharing how he had been the one to take me to the hospital when Nathan and Vivian refused to help. His words painted a clear picture of their cruelty and left no doubt about their true nature. The court ruled in my favor on all counts. I was granted full custody of Liam, and Nathan was ordered to pay child support and damages for his actions. The divorce was finalized and I was free of him forever. Nathan and Vivian also face criminal charges for their actions and attempts at extortion. The judge sentenced them to community service and hefty fines. With the legal battles behind me, I finally felt a sense of peace. Liam and I settled into a new routine, surrounded by the love and support of my parents. Over time, Ryan and I grew closer. His unwavering support during my darkest days had shown me the kind of partner I deserved: someone who stood by me, believed in me, and never sought to diminish my light. One evening, as we watched Liam toddle around the living room, Ryan took my hand. "Eleanor," he said softly, "I've loved you for a long time. Watching you fight for your son and your future has only made me love you more. Will you let me be a part of your life? Not just as a friend but as a partner?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded. "Yes, Ryan. It would be an honor." Nathan and Vivian had tried to break me, but they had failed. I emerged stronger with my son in my arms, my company reclaimed, and a future filled with hope. Ryan and I married a year later in a small, intimate ceremony. Standing at the altar with Liam by my side, I finally felt the happiness I had once dreamed of. This was my new beginning, a life built on love, strength, and resilience.